Hi guys, welcome back to Veterans View News Network. So what I wanted to cover in this particular video is the part 2 of the professional growth strategies video that I started yesterday. So just kind of jumping right in where I left off. I went through the first 3 yesterday, which were embracing your network, finding a mentor, and then also asking for more responsibility in terms of professional growth. Now for this video, I'm going to pick up right at number 4, which is take performance reviews seriously. Now, depending on what type of job you work in, they may or may not focus on this very much. So what is a performance review? So in my career field, when I was in the Army, we would get a monthly counseling statement is what they called it. And what that did is it pretty much went through for the entire month everything you did right, everything you did wrong, and that was pretty simple. It was a conversation. And if you had issues with it, you could raise those issues, and then we were required to sign it at the end, whether we agreed or disagreed with the end result. Then from there, when I worked in the prison, we had one. It was like every 3 months. And pretty much what they would do is they would just pull you aside and they would go through, hey, senior staff said that you're communicating well. They're watching you and listening to you engage with the inmates, and you're not being offensive, you're being respectful, you're doing your job, providing security. That's kind of how that conversation went. Now with my last job, as a government contractor, it was much more structured. It was every month, and they would sit you down, and they had a list. And every company can do this a little bit differently. But pretty much they went through the list of metrics that they were looking for. How many reports did you write? What type of review process did they go through? How many reports did you QA, QC? There was a lot built into it, but it was definitely a very regular conversation, and the leadership really seemed like they wanted to know how things were going. They wanted to know what you liked, what you didn't like. This is how things are going. Do you have any ideas, any recommendations? This is a very critical part of growing, because if you have leadership who are actually focusing on what you're doing and they're engaged, they're going to tell you, hey, you know what? We really want to look at giving you that promotion maybe in the next couple months, but this is what we need to see more of from you. Or this is everything you're doing great. We're looking at promoting you next month. Or if you're not doing so great, hey, this is where you're doing well. This is where we need some improvement here. And then you can actually create a plan to make that happen. So definitely take those performance reviews seriously. Next one would be mastering your industry. So regardless of what type of career you have, what type of field you work in, at least from my perspective, you should always want to do your very best, and you should always want to know as much about that career field as you possibly can. Now, I'm not saying this to be like, oh, you need to be a brainiac. You need to be the kid who raises his hand every single time a teacher asks you a question. And I'm not saying to be like that. But what it does is if you master your industry and you know pretty much everything ins, outs, backward, and forward, when a problem arises, you're going to be able to quickly think how you can fix that problem. If your leadership team is really focusing on innovation, you could already have ideas pre-established because you've been paying attention to this and you've seen where there may be deficiencies or where things can be improved. But then also you're going to remain at the top in terms of promotions and promotion potential. And your leadership is going to notice that. And if they don't, then that opens the door once again for that dialogue. You can request that. Hey, I've been studying X and I see that we're doing things Y. I think if we can implement some of X into our Y, we'll be able to increase our output. We'll be able to speed this up. We'll be able to save this number of dollars. That's how businesses, at least in the private sector, that's how they look at it. Because ultimately, they're operating for profit. Now, if you work for the government, whether it's city, county, state, or federal, totally different picture. They, unfortunately, do not get the same signals that a private company gets, or a company in the private sector, I should say. Because the government, they're extremely inefficient. Government rarely innovates, which is why most things that government do, they get it from the private sector because they know they're a disaster. So they rely on the private sector to take care of things for them. And then the state or city or county pays X company in the private sector an insane amount of money so that they can utilize that technology or whatever it is. So you definitely want to be a part of that. And then lastly is you should always be looking for your next opportunity. Now, you may love your job, you may love where you live, you may love everything about it, you may never want to move. And that's totally fine. If you're okay in that, stay in that. But you never know what kind of opportunities could arise. You should always have your resume up to date because something could become available. You could be notified about something. Hey, you know what? We got this new position. I just found out about it. It's closing tomorrow. You want to have your resume already ready because you may not know if you would enjoy a position until you hear about it. You may think you're set right where you are, and somebody could bring you a job opportunity, and that could be like, holy crap, that sounds like something I want to do. So you should always have that. Then also within that, focus on your transferable skills. What skills can you take from your current job that you can bring forward with you to a new job? So these are simple things. Communication skills. If you're a great communicator, bring that with you. If you have a particular, if you're really good at software, if you're really good at a particular type of coding, if you're a great leader and you have great leadership qualities, you're calm, you're patient, these types of things you should want to bring with you to your next environment. So you should be focusing on those and make sure that you're nurturing those so that you do not start to lose some of those qualities. And then also, prepare yourself for potential interviews for new promotions or for getting a new job, getting a new position. The reason this last one's really critical, coupled with the resume and the transferable skills, there's been study after study after study after study showing that the younger generations spend less time at a particular job. Like my dad, he worked for the same company. I mean, they got bought out 2 times in the process that he was there. So he worked for 3 separate companies, but it was doing the same job. They just got bought out by 2 separate companies at a different time. That was the only job he had my entire life. He worked there for like 20 some odd years. Now, he worked his way up within the company, yeah, but he worked for the same employer. As we go, like my particular generation, millennials, on average, we stay at a place for just over 4 years. It's 4.2 years. And the reasoning behind that, millennials are typically more involved in tech. Tech evolves at such a rapid pace. I mean, it evolves pretty much faster than any other type of technology or any other sector, I should say, not technology, we're always looking for opportunities. There's always new companies. There's always new startups. There's always something going on where you may have a connection. You may be younger, but you could be stellar at your career and you could get on with one of these companies as a COO, a CFO, some senior level position within the company at a very young age because they're just growing. And with that also comes additional compensation. So they've also shown that in these studies, people who move jobs more often are also going to earn more money in their lifetime. Because getting hired on by a new company for your new skills, that new company and new skills is more than likely going to compensate you better than if you're working for the same company and they're just giving you little raises along the way. So it's definitely something to think about. So with that, guys, that's all 6. The first 3 were in my video from yesterday. This is the last set of 3. I've got my time for the video now. I'm sitting at a little over 11 minutes. So I was definitely able to cut that video in 2, make it more even so the video is not as long. If you guys like this content, as always, please hit the like button. I'm still growing like crazy. I'm at over 1,300 subscribers now. I love it. I'm blown away every day when I wake up with 20, 30, 40 new subscribers. It's been super fun. I'm starting to get more engagement on my community tab. I've got some polls in there. I'm getting more comments. So also, guys, please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more of this type of content. I'm trying to bring this content from a perspective of my personal experience, but also research that I've done and individuals that I have talked to, which I believe this is all real world experience. So what I believe is actually taking place. And then also turn on notifications so you guys know when I post my next video. I do still have my first live stream that I'll be doing, which is a personal and professional development Q&A. I'm doing that February 6th at 10 a.m. and that's Pacific Standard Time. So if you're on the East Coast, that would be 1 p.m. Pacific, or 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So once again, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.